our lives are so crazy and there's so much input. And I think it's just important for people in general and for kids to just have those things that they kind of like rituals almost that they do every day. It's kind of like, okay, I get up before everyone else so it's quiet and I can have 10 minutes to meditate or whatever. And I think that if you ask my kids, they would know kind of what their anchoring pieces are throughout the day. Like they kind of know to expect it.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. Here on the podcast, I share my experiences raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 16 to 26 and working with thousands more as a summer camp director over the past 3 decades. I'm the author of Happy Campers, and I frequently do workshops with parents, teachers, and summer camp professionals about social skills, connection, and happiness, topics I researched extensively for my master's in psychology. If you want tools for raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults, you've come to the right place. In this episode, I'm chatting with my good friend, Brooke Cheley-Klebe. She's the Director of Camper and Parent Services at Cheley Colorado Camps. Brooke brings decades of experience working with youth to her current favorite role as mother to 3 daughters who are ages 7, 11, and 14. In our conversation, Brooke shares her ideas for how to raise daughters who become thriving adults. Welcome to the podcast, Brooke.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm so excited to have you back on today. This episode came out of a conversation we had at a camp conference about raising daughters. So to start with, why don't you just talk about your girls and how old they are now?
Ellie is my oldest, and she just turned 14 at the beginning of this month. And Kate is my next, who is 11, and Sammy is 7.
So you are in the thick of it with raising 3 daughters. And I know that you also have had how many years of experience working with the campers and girls at Cheley?
Oh gosh, if you count, when I was a counselor, over 25 years of working at camp with the campers as well as the counselors.
When you were a counselor, did you work with a specific age group? Like, was there one age group of girls that you were especially liked being with?
I started with our middle school girls and then was with our high school girls. So middle school to high school.
Okay, was your main focus.
Mm-hmm. And then when I became a mom, I think I did kind of switch focus when my kids were younger into those lower units, the 9 to 11-year-olds, just because I find the mothering techniques and is so important.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fun. I bet you feel the same way I do. It was really nice to have the experience of working with so many girls before I had my own, to just sort of get to know them and see what they need and everything. So do you feel like your time at camp has really informed your parenting of your daughters?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think just having all the people that I've had the opportunity to go see, the specialists in raising children, has helped me in my own parenting. I mean, anytime I'm at a camp conference and sitting in a session with anybody, I always think of my own family life and my own parenting. So yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So true. I do the same thing. I take these notes and it's supposed to be for camp. And then I'm like, wait, I'm going to use this at home too.
Exactly.
So good.
Exactly.
Okay. So today I just wanted to chat with you about some of your ideas around how parents and caregivers can help their daughters become thriving adults. And I want to start with something that I know is a topic that's really kind of key to both of us. And that's just the importance of focusing on our connection and relationship with our daughters. So why don't you share just a little bit about, you're a working mom and busy life like many of us. How do you connect with your own girls?
I think I try to really show up in those little moments. So I find that anchors are very important in my family life. And that's something that I learned from camp, and just we really focus on that as far as the camp experience goes. So at home, I make sure that those are there. I make them breakfast in the morning, and we have breakfast together, and always are talking about the day. And we have Alexa give us the five top topics in the news, but I don't have the Today Show on because I used to do that actually. And everyone was like watching the toaster strudel advertisements that were on more than the news. And it would drive me crazy. So I made really the conscious effort to turn it off because it wasn't necessarily real news. So now we just try and get the snippets. And when we're not listening to that, we're just really present with each other. And then just really those moments just those small moments of giving them a really tight squeeze before they leave for the day. And when they get in the car at the end of the day, I'm careful to not just start firing questions at them, but just kind of let them be. And then the evening is probably the most important time. I think even after they get home and they're working on homework and we're trying to cook dinner, and it's kind of busy, and usually someone has some sort of activity going on. But at the end of the day, after dinner and everyone's showered, I always take those moments to sit down and read with Sammy. And just, even if it's 5 minutes, it's always there, just like present, looking into her eyeballs and not having my phone there. And I do it with each one of them before they go to bed. So when I do our staff training, I always harp on that with our counselors, because I would imagine that most of our parents are taking those moments to really be with their kids before they go to bed. So I find it to be very important that our counselors do the same thing.
So before you go on, I want you to just share this. You mentioned the word anchor. Can you explain what you mean by anchors in the day?
Well, I think our lives are so crazy and there's so much input. And I think it's just important for people in general and for kids to just have those things that they kind of like rituals almost that they do every day. It's kind of like, okay, I get up before everyone else so it's quiet and I can have 10 minutes to meditate or whatever. And I think that if you ask my kids, they would know kind of what their anchoring pieces are throughout the day. Like they kind of know to expect it. I think if I just, sent even my 14-year-old up to bed and said, good night, see you later, she may not be able to articulate it, but that would be an anchor that she would miss. She'd be like, what the heck? What happened? Mm-hmm. But that may happen if she starts staying up later than I do, then that may happen.
Well, you can just always switch it then. What I used to do is once that happened for me, I just told them they had to come and tuck me in.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we just swapped it. So we'd still have the conversation. It was just at my bed instead of theirs. So
right,
I think
that's going to have to happen for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do think it's really key. I actually wrote about it in my book about my daughter coming back from a sleepover at a friend's house, and she was like 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. And she mentioned to me that the mom didn't come to say goodnight.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yes.
And so when you were talking about those anchors, it's something that, maybe parents, if they didn't have that themselves as a child, wouldn't really think about that being an important thing.
Right.
We know at camp, it's such an important part of our day to have our counselors just individually say goodnight, kind of tuck in, so to speak, each kid. And that's equally important at home. So I love that that's one of your kind of anchors of your day, and something that I'm sure your girls really they might just take it for granted because they're so used to you being there. But what a great thing for them to know that even if they've had a hard day, they know they're going to have a little bit of time with mom at the end of the day just to kind of debrief and share, even if they don't have time before that.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the way that I was brought up. And then a lot of times it includes foot rubs with essential oils. So they're kind of spoiled rotten. But yes.
In the right way. That's the right kind of spoiling.
Yes, for sure.
That's the kind of the essential oils on your feet. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to move to your house, Brooke.
Right.
That sounds so good. But I you just always have struck me as being pretty like you're not a high intensity parent? Like I probably, maybe that's from like your meditation, or is that just more your personality?
I think maybe it's my personality, but I also think I'm intentional about it and just focusing on really the person that they are rather than what they're achieving or what their grades look like or how they are on the basketball court or the soccer field. And so I do intentionally think about the things that I say to them, or even when they're leaving the house in the morning, like, okay, make sure you're a good friend today, or make sure you're focusing. But it's never like do great on that test. So it might be a little bit of both. I think it's my personality, and then just and a conscious decision.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, that really segues nicely into our next key tip for raising girls who become thriving adults was something that you and I talked about before we started recording, is just helping them understand that they're enough just the way they are. And you kind of touched on that when you talk about trying not to be, have most of your conversations be about some kind of achievement or test score or something else. What are some other ways that you try to show your daughter just like that being authentic and not being perfect is just fine?
Right. I do try and lead by example for sure. I am aware of the things that I say. I never say in front of my kids, "Oh my gosh, these jeans make me look fat." I'd never do that. I don't really do that for my friends either. But I think that I'm careful of what I say about myself and not thinking that I am enough. I am hard on myself though, so I do kind of look at that and try to really teach them that growth mindset of, okay, I'm not great at this now, but I'm learning and I make mistakes. I do make the decision that if I make a mistake or I feel like I didn't handle something right, like if I'm stressed out and I kind of lose it for a second, I will go back to my kids and say, "I'm so sorry, I did not handle that right." But I feel like I do that with everybody. I would do that with the people I work with too. Like, oh gosh, I could have handled that better, or I made a mistake, or and then with them, Sammy is really into drawing right now. Like she loves coloring, and she's actually really good at it. And she's coloring people, and she was drawing hands. She's like, "Oh, I'm so bad at drawing hands." I'm like, "You are not bad at drawing hands. You are learning how to draw hands." Or, "I'm so bad at math." I'm like, no, you're not bad at math. You are in the process of learning it. I just think it's so important. So I really try and instill that into their mindset, and I think they get that at school as well, which is great. But I think it is an interesting thing to look at, because I think women can be hard on themselves, and I've just kind of recently been like, when does that start? Like, at what age do we start to think about that we have to just be everything and be perfect and all of that? I do think it's fascinating. So
Yeah, that we have to change things. We have to change our appearance. We have to, start coloring our hair and doing our nails. I mean, it's like all this stuff that we just take for granted, at least in the Western culture, of that these are just things that you do as a woman.
yeah.
But where does that come from? This expectation that we need to change what we fundamentally look like. And maybe it's, if it makes us feel better. I mean, I don't have any problem. I do all of those things,
Right.
but I wonder, with our daughters, I think that I really like your approach of what you focus on in your conversations and comments is on the maybe deeper things and that whole growth mindset. I really think at camp in our training, we do just this one training that's just with our female counselors. And we actually do a lot of practicing of compliments you can give about someone's inner strengths as opposed to outer appearance, because as women and girls, we're very much conditioned to be like, "Oh my gosh, you got a new haircut. It looks so cute." Or, "Wow, that shirt is so cool. Where'd you get it?" And those are fine. It's not like it's bad to like give someone a compliment. People, if you picked out a nice shirt, you don't mind at all someone mentioning it.
Right.
However, if that's all we give to our daughters, we risk them hearing that that's what's most important, is just what's on the outside, what I look like. And so what are some, like when you think about your girls and just kind of it seems like you ask questions and the way you talk to them sometimes is more about just kind of how they're doing and their well-being. What are some like ideas of things that you might ask or, ask your girls to tell you about, like maybe in your bedtime tuck-in chat or something like that?
A couple weeks ago, I was talking to Ellie, and Ellie is just kind of this interesting kid. She's my oldest. She's 14. And she's kind of an anomaly in the sense that the social stuff doesn't really bother her. If there's a party and she's not invited, it doesn't bother her. And she has friends, and but I think that she's just really comfortable in her own skin. And so it doesn't faze her. So I was talking to her one night and during our bedtime routine, and I said, these certain things don't seem to bother you. What do you think it is about you that kind of has that? I mean, you could probably bottle that up and sell it. And she didn't really have an answer to that. But then I did ask her, I said, is it real? Like, are you really like that? Or are you faking it? And she very looked at me and said, no, it's real. And so it's just an interesting way of saying, are you just asking like the question of, is this how you're really feeling? Or is this what you're showing to me? So I thought that was a kind of a fun question. I also asked, who'd you play with on the playground to Sammy? What did you play? How are your friends doing? Things like that. Sometimes I'll get creative and say, did you want an alien to come and take any of your friends or any of your classmates out of the school? Things like that. If I'm not too tired, I can think of fun questions like that.
What?
Good old camp questions, like, would you rather live in the ocean or on space? And then I do try and focus on the gratefulness piece. Like, tell me something really specifically that you're grateful for. They don't always play by my rules, like as far as making it specific, but I do try and end the day on that note.
I was recently reminded, well, all those things are great. And I actually love when you mentioned to Ellie, if you could bottle that up and sell it, that's such a nice compliment for her to hear that you think it's really cool about her, that she's not getting sucked into the kind of the crazy social issues that a lot of girls her age, are getting sucked into, which I think has no small part to do with the fact that she is not interested in social media, which is, that is also probably what makes her different maybe than a lot of girls her age. What do you think? How much impact do you think that has, that she's just not that excited about that stuff?
Well, I think it kind of happened out of luck, like her group of friends, and we never really got together as parents and made the decision to just not be there yet. I think two of her friends that are twins are getting phones this week, and they're in 8th grade, and they're excited about it. But so I think it just kind of happened out of her friend group that they're not all on it. So it was kind of organic. I think if you just don't get it, then you just don't know. I know there will be a time where she will have it, and but I think that probably is part of it as well.
Yeah, from what I understand, the social media is, having more of an impact on girls than on boys. And the longer you can delay the start of that, it just adds this whole other layer of kind of comparison. And it's a very superficial, lacking depth platform. So, and as are like a lot of the other ones too. So I think that could also be helping with her confidence level if you're not spending your time looking at what other people are doing. Like you said, like if you don't get invited to a party, it's really not that big of a deal if you're not looking at other people at the party.
Right,
It seems like it makes it easier. So I think that's got to have been helpful. So with your younger girls, just out of curiosity, I know they're not there yet, but say one of them is like really social butterfly, wants to get on the same things with their friends, which who knows what the popular media will be by then. But what will your approach be once you have a daughter who is really interested? Do you have like an age at which you think it's appropriate, or how would you start integrating the phone/social media with like your current 11-year-old if when she's older, she
Well,
wants to get into that?
yeah, I am more worried about my 11-year-old. I do think it's so, and I think any great child psychologist that you hear these days, Lisa D'Amour is one of my favorites right now. Obviously, they call her the teenage girl whisperer, and having 3 girls myself, I think that to put parameters around it. I mean, obviously, we need to teach the kids technology. This is where we are in the world, and it's important. But I think just really having parameters at home is really important. So from the very beginning, they're not being charged in their rooms, and they're not really in their rooms. So I have them not there. I try again to lead by example and not have it at the dinner table, and I'm not on it a lot. So I really work and make the conscious decision to lead by example with that. And I think like just the sleep thing is it's one of my favorite things that Lisa D'Amour says. She is like, if you don't do anything, make sure your kids are sleeping, because if they're sleeping with their phones in their room, it's like going to ping them, and if they see someone that was at a party that they weren't at, they're not going to sleep well. So I think that's a huge one, is just keeping them on the first level or just not charging in their rooms. And having parameters around that. I think right now, so Kate's in the 6th grade, and she will get a phone for her birthday, and she's kind of not even wanting one. So I don't, that will probably change by March. Maybe I'll get her a flip phone until she's in 8th grade. I mean, probably not, but so I think that's just how I will handle it, is putting parameters around it.
Yeah. I like how I mean, it's great. Obviously, probably because your girls have grown up at camp and doing so much outdoorsy fun stuff.
Yeah.
They have seen that you don't need a phone to have fun and to have friends.
Right.
I bet that's do you think that has a big part of it?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think they know that there's so much fun to be had that's not on their phones.
So the last topic that I want to talk about, something that we both really believe in, is just how important it is to just help our daughters feel happier and more energized by helping them discover just activities, interests, things where they get in that state called flow. Whether or not it's things that other kids are doing, So why don't you speak a little to that, of how we as parents or caregivers can help our girls just figure out things that they enjoy, for that like suit them and that kind of thing. I'm sure your girls are all different, and how do you navigate that with 3 different girls?
They all kind of have their own little thing that is flow for them. I think I allow the time and the space. So I think that's really important. Again, it kind of goes back to our nighttime ritual, that we're not like watching TV until right before we go to bed. We're like going to take that time to really like Ellie loves to color, or she loves to make friendship bracelets. So she'll make friendship bracelets. I mean, her soccer water bottle has like 10 friendship bracelets hanging from it. So she'll do that. And Kate, she really loves animals. Like, she would love to be a vet. We have horses that we bring down from camp, and she will go and just brushing the horse and doing all those things that she needs to do at the barns. And then she'll sit with the dog for hours. And then she has a tortoise named Hank. And, the Hank is very slow. And so she will just sit and hang out and let him walk in the grass and hang out with him. So that's kind of her jam. And then Samantha is really into coloring right now. So if she gets her reading done and gets her homework done, it's like, I'll give her the time to really just be able to color before bed. So they haven't gotten into running or yoga or anything like those kind of physical things yet, but I think I look forward to kind of watching that all unfold.
Yeah. And like, sports are great And I wonder, it's funny because I think sports are great for all kids and girls included. A lot of it is for the social aspect and being with the team and also just getting some exercise, which is really important and everything. But it doesn't have to be so intense, and it also can evolve later too. So that's really great. Well, Brooke, I want to ask you, because one of the things that I always think about when I'm trying to describe flow to people is I talk about how sometimes if you're not sure what brings you flow, you think back to when you were like 11, 12, 13, which are the age of your two older daughters right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder when when you look back when you were that age, what did you enjoy doing during your kind of like free time? Like what would you choose to do when you had like leisure time when you were that age?
Probably color. I also was an ice skater, so I spent time, and I think I used to just want to like dance around the ice. Even though I was a pretty serious ice skater, that was my favorite thing to do. So that brought me a lot of flow. But I do appreciate it so much as an adult. So I would say I loved coloring as a kid.
Yeah. Now, do you still do coloring at all? Like, do you have any?
No, I need to. No, I need to. I mean, and the other day, Sammy was wanting me to color with her, and I was making dinner and I was busy and I hadn't done it yet. And so by the end of the night, I did sit down and was drawing a house, and she's so cute. She's like, "Mom, you're really good at this." I'm not very good at it, but
Yet. Remember the growth mindset, Brooke.
I know. I should go to a painting class. But yeah, so I do sit down and color with her, which is super fun.
Well, I just love that. I think that one of the things that I always keep coming back to with parenting is that the best way we can raise kids who become thriving adults is showing them what one looks like. And so as parents, one of the best ways we can ensure that our kids like figure out all these little ways to live a better life is to practice them ourselves. Is so that, for example, the thinking, all three of the things we just talked about were, things that we can do for ourselves too, just kind of showing up and relaxing and debriefing at the end of the day and feeling like we're enough and talking to ourselves a little more nicely, like, using yet, like if I don't feel like I'm good enough at something yet, being like a little more forgiving and not being so negative in our self-talk. And then I think really just this flow idea, just finding like hobbies, fun things that we do that we enjoy, that our kids can see us enjoying. So much of the time, I feel like parents and caregivers were so frazzled and like frenetic and so focused on, getting things done for our kids, and that they're just seeing adulthood as not looking very fun,
Yeah.
So I feel like before we started recording, you shared with me, and I don't know if you've mentioned it during this, is that you do some meditation. Tell me about how often do you do that, and what does that look like?
And that's one of my anchors, I would say. So I do get up before everybody else, and it's just like my quiet time. And even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, I spend that time just meditating and being quiet in my brain. And then I think it helps me to feel more focused throughout the day. And then I just try and think about, like, at the end of my meditation, of what my intention is for the day. And sometimes that intention is just to be present, especially if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, just to enjoy the day and not worry about what doesn't, and especially during this time of year, what doesn't get done. So that is definitely one of my anchors. And I think as an adult, one thing that we are so lucky to have in Colorado is skiing. So we ski as a family, and that definitely is a happy place for me when I am in complete flow as an adult. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, Brooke, this has been such a fun conversation about raising daughters. And I kind of think it's fun that, my daughters are on the older, like they're now 26, 24, and 21, and yours are 14, 11, and 7. And I think in many ways you're raising your daughters are really a different generation, as we learned from G20 at our conference, that it's changed a lot, parenting parenting girls, I think is even more challenging than when my girls were little. So it's really great talking to you and just kind of getting your insights that you're on the front lines right now. So thanks for being on today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I so enjoyed this conversation with Brooke and am inspired to just use some of her ideas for just bringing more intentionality to our lives, especially the way she makes sure to take time to center herself each day and just have these anchor points of connection with her girls. Brooke's amazing camp program, Cheley Colorado Camps in Estes Park, Colorado, is celebrating 100 years of serving kids. Cheley is a great place to develop lifetime leadership and character building skills, as well as meaningful friendships. You can find out more about Cheley by visiting their website at cheley.com. As always, you can find notes, links, and other resources related to today's conversation by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my email list so that you don't miss out on any of the great resources I have available for raising thriving kids. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Please take a moment to give Sunshine Parenting a rating or review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's end with a quote from my book, Happy Campers. Positive relationships are what make a happy life. So let's help our kids build the social skills they need now to have strong friendships and positive relationships throughout their lives. I'm Audrey Monkey. Thank you for joining me for the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. Join me again next week.